everyone? Welcome to He's Not Wrong. I'm your host, Chad D, and I just had a moment of realization that my speech impediment that I suffered with, or suffered from, I should say, as a kid, that sent me to speech therapy for a bit in 2003, is rearing its ugly head. It's really difficult for me to have that opening saying, "Welcome to He's Not Wrong. I'm your host, Chad D." Saying it really fast, it comes out like that speech impediment shows. And so just please know that I do suffer from a speech impediment. It sometimes just show up, and it's been recently showing up since I started this podcast. It's not ideal, but we're going to live with it. We're going to move on. I'm live from Florida. If you couldn't tell, if you're watching on one of the video platforms, I am sitting in the back of my car with my mobile recording studio overlooking the water, and I'm so happy. I am someone that when it comes to creativity, I have to change my location in order to feel inspiration and motivation to keep being creative. 10, 11 years ago, when I was doing my daily vlogging on YouTube, I loved that. That was the most productive, creative time of my life because I was doing something different every single day. I was dealing with different people. I was seeing different people. I was seeing different spaces and places and faces. And I just felt an energy creatively because there was something new and different every single day. And the closest to that creativity that I've had since doing those daily vlogs on YouTube in that past life is this podcast. And as you know, the every episode has been inside of my apartment in the little podcast studio, and it can get a little mundane and lack a little creativity. And so this is really important to me that I can get out and do a mobile podcast episode and just feel rejuvenated, revived, and refreshed. The three R's, and just continue on being creative. So we're grateful for this time and this space, and I'm happy that you're here with me. So all that being said, I also have to say, listening back on my episodes, I have to quit saying now. With all that being said, that I'm gonna annoy myself by continually saying that. But with all that being said, like I said, I'm in Florida, and so I drove down from Birmingham. It's about a 4-hour drive, and I I get so annoyed with people on the road when they have trailers or attached to their vehicle, or they have things in the back of their truck, and say it's like, construction equipment or something, and there's dirt. There's clumps of dirt and rock that is still on the equipment that's in the bed of the truck or on the tractor trailer that's attached, or on the trailer that's attached to the vehicle, and you're hitting 70, 80 miles an hour on the interstate. That stuff's gonna come flying off, and it hits my windshield. I This car that you're seeing, if you're watching the video format of this podcast, I got this car not even a year ago. I think I got it like 9 months ago. There's already a chip in the windshield because people don't wash off their machinery before they hit the road, and I'm so over that. I'm gonna start lobbying for a bill to pass the Alabama state legislature saying that if like, you're gonna get a ticket if you don't wash off your machinery before getting on the road with it in the back of your car, because it is a hazard. And I'm sure if there's a rock big enough, or if you're going fast enough, it could probably penetrate a windshield. God forbid someone dies because people are just lazy and they don't wanna clean off their stuff before they put it in the back of their car and hit the road. I'm over that, and that's what I just needed to say, because on my way down here yesterday, there was, a truck that had a trailer, and it had, I don't even know the name of the machines, but a bunch of different machines, and it just had dirt and rock caked on it, and I'd got in a different lane, and I went slower to let them get far enough ahead that it wasn't a threat to my vehicle and my safety, and so I knew I needed to talk about this. I needed to let it out in the universe and say that we all need to come together and support this legislation that I'm gonna try to get, passed in the Alabama state legislature. So I do have a few friends who are state reps and senators, and if y'all listen to this podcast, know I'll be coming knocking on your door very soon to be the sponsors of this legislation. Um, so one thing that I also want to kick off with, or kick this episode off with, is the fact that I'm in such a great mood. I said in episode 1, I don't know how you're always gonna find me in these episodes, but I hope that you find me well, and you're finding me well today. And I did a lot of reflection since last week's episode, and I'm not happy with it. The title was "I'm Mad," and I was mad, and I'm sorry that that's how you found me last week, and I'm sorry that that's the energy that I met all of you with. It's not my intention to spread negative energy, but sometimes that's just the reality of the situation, and that was the reality of the situation with last week's episode. With that negative energy that I was just having to let out on my platform, I also failed. I wasn't wrong, excuse me, but I did fail at trying to get across accurately what it is that I was trying to express. And so that so I wanna talk about that. I want to address it because I did turn several people off with what I was talking about when it came to gay rights and voting against people's, best interests and not being a voter or someone who only votes for yourself. Voting with other people in mind. I do think that's important. I'm not wrong about that. I think that we should all understand the implications that our actions have, including voting. Um, but there's one thing that I really, really want to express and talk about, and that's that a lot of people get really turned off when you are using hypotheticals, when you're saying they're going to take away my right to marriage, they're going to take away my right to adopt. And it's not always black and white, but this is a situation where our rights being threatened are it is black and white. And just until last year, the Republican national platform that they would put forth at the Republican National Convention each year stated that that gay marriage should be abolished, that it should not be a thing. Marriage should be defined between a man and a woman. So that's a case where it's black and white, where our rights in the LGBTQ community were under attack. And I know that a lot of people believe that Project 2025 was just a Democratic talking point. But you're right, it was a talking point because it needed to be a talking point because everyone needed to understand what was at stake and the implications of a Trump presidency with regard to policy being pulled from Project 2025. So if you don't believe that Project 2025 is as big of a threat as a lot of people say it is, as I say it is, that's fine. That is your right. That's your opinion. You don't have to believe that. But one thing that we can't argue and one thing that's not up for debate is the fact that there are policies being pulled, as we have discussed in previous episodes from Project 2025, that are verbatim going into effect. And in Project 2025, it talks about defining marriage between a man and a woman, that adoption should be between a man and a woman, not even a single person, just a man and a woman married, a nuclear family. It's defining that, it's describing that, it's talking about it in a way that is showing where they stand when it comes to these policy points. And that is a direct threat to our rights. So we can then assume that if all these other things are happening that are coming out of Project 2025, it's being put into effect, it's being put into place, then we should be able to assume that they're also going to come for our rights. It's not far off base to say and or think that. So, one thing that I wanted to talk about with this also is a talking point that Republicans like to say when it comes to gun control is we don't want any laws. And when I say we, I'm not talking about myself. I'm speaking as if I'm them. But they say we don't want any kind of gun laws because once you start, it's a slippery slope. It's always that argument that it's a slippery slope. Once you start with one simple law, they're going to come for all the rest of our rights. They're going to just take away all of our guns. And we've seen it with workers' rights. Laws that were put into place within the past 100 years to protect workers are being rolled back. Trump on day 1 with his executive orders rolled back protections for workers. That is a direct a direct impact on our rights as working class Americans. And so we know that the argument is don't touch our guns, no gun laws because it's a slippery slope. Cool. Got it. Coming after workers' rights. They come after voting rights. They try to delay bills that protect voting rights, or they whatever. Women's rights, Roe versus Wade. That is a women's rights issue. They had a right to healthcare that should be between them and their doctor. They had that taken away, and so we see in multiple instances that the government does come after our rights. So why is it in this instance, gay rights, LGBTQIA plus rights are untouched? The government's not gonna come after those. It is absurd to think that there is a line in which the government's not gonna cross. They've crossed every single line. Why is this one the one that they're not gonna touch? So, I think it is insane to be a part of the gay community, to be a gay Republican, in this instance, for the people that I'm talking about. I think it is insane for you to sit there and think that you're right as a gay person to get married, to adopt, and whatever is protected and just won't be touched. Well, like, what's the reasoning behind that? I genuinely don't get it. You have to fight to keep your rights, to protect your rights. Our rights are some of the newest ones that have been allowed in American history. So why are the newest ones the ones that are the most safe? It doesn't make sense. So I failed at getting that across last week, that it just is it's such a touchy topic for a lot of people, but we have to understand that our rights aren't guaranteed, and they take work and fighting to protect and to keep and to continue to build on for future generations. So that's all I wanted to say and to address from last week's episode. And again, I just want to give another example before we move on with since last week's episode we're seeing that Congress was trying to pass the SAVE Act, and it's a direct attack on women. Women not like women getting married and not changing their last name on their driver's license, but taking the man's married name now can't cast a ballot to vote. Like that is a voting rights issue. It's a women's rights issue. They're coming for our rights. So like we see across the board in multiple different areas where the government does come for certain rights. Again, I pose the question, why are rights that have to do with the gay community the ones that won't be touched? It doesn't make sense. Um, so we know in the future I do have an episode planned where we talk about the 14th Amendment and Obergefell and the Supreme Court, and how the Supreme Court justices, specifically Clarence Thomas, did say that he would like to revisit Obergefell as it relates to the 14th Amendment. So I mean, they have made it very, very clear that we are not safe. So take of that what you will, but I know I'm not wrong. So I know that we just talked about rights and that the media is protected under our Constitution, a free and fair press. But one thing that really made me mad this year on April Fool's Day, on April 1st, was when I got online, I saw a news article from Yahoo News, and it was an article about how Warren Buffett paid in cash to buy Tesla from Elon Musk. And our news cycles are so insane that I fully believed that Warren Buffett did that. I figured, there's enough going on. There's probably a value that he sees that we might not see to save this company. And so I read the article and I fully believed it. So as I continued to read that article, at the very end, it stated this was all satire. It was a joke. Got you, April Fool's Day, whatever. I got so irate reading that article, or that part of the article, because I was like, in this day and age, that is not far off base. I could see that number one being true. But when misinformation, disinformation is so prevalent, people believe literally anything that they see online, I think it is so irresponsible for a news organization, a news company to do a fake article as an April Fool's joke. I feel like this is just not it is not the time in society to be doing that. I get maybe years ago, sure, that's funny, but now it's like, mm-mm, we need to make a law banning news organizations from being able to participate in April Fool's Day because that was ridiculous. And I'm sure there are people who read that article. I swear to God, I fully believe there are people who read that article that to this day think Warren Buffett bought Tesla from Elon Musk, and they're probably fighting tooth and nail believing it because they didn't make it to the very bottom of the article to see that it was a joke. They probably just read the headline and then the first paragraph and went on with their day. So I mean, it's irresponsible. We need to not be doing that. So last week's episode, I also talked about White Lotus, how I fully need Sarah Catherine Hook's character Piper to survive the episode or to survive the season, not to die in the last episode. And I feel like enough time has passed that we can talk about it because when it comes to streaming episodes, I understand that spoilers are prevalent. I understand that spoilers are something that are inevitable, but I have a rule that you have 7 days to watch an episode before you should post about it or talk about it online. And when this episode comes out, it will be 7 days since the finale aired. There's no excuse. You had all the time in the world to watch that hour-and-a-half long episode. So we're gonna talk about it. So Sarah Catherine Hook, Montgomery, Alabama's sweetheart, our very own, she survived. Thank God. That episode is what I needed it to be. It was everything and more. We all knew that Rick and Chelsea, we knew that they were gonna die. But I'm a little upset with Belinda. Belinda did to her man what Tanya did to her. So I don't know what the lesson there what I don't know what that lesson was supposed to be. I'm assuming it was a statement about money changes people, or once you get a little bit of money, like motivations and energy and attitude, whatever changes. Um, I don't know what the message was supposed to be, but I know I didn't like it. I know I didn't like what she did to her man, that rude, and on top of that, I got teary-eyed when I thought Lachlan died. I was laying there in bed and fully was forming tears. I was like, "Oh my god." That I'm like, I'm getting teary-eyed thinking about it, and I know he came through, somehow was resurrected. He saw the face of God and said, "Nope, not my time." Came back to life on Earth, but it's still that was emotional. I also was listening to the podcast episode, like the official White Lotus podcast episode, where they were talking about how there was a intimate scene between Piper and Zion that got cut. I know Sarah Catherine went on all of the news networks and on her press tour for the finale saying, "Yes, that is true, but like I creatively I understand. Like he told me he when he did it, I was upset, but when I saw the finale, it made sense. Like the creative direction, like it wouldn't have made sense if it was in the episode." So I understand that's what Sarah Catherine said. I understand that's what Mike White said, but I don't care. I need to see all the deleted scenes from that episode. I think that they said that that finale was originally like 2.5 hours long and they cut it down to 90 minutes. I need to see what they cut. I understand that for airing on HBO, it might not have made sense now to have shown it, but it's a streaming platform. It's a subscription-based platform. Why are we holding ourselves to the timing standards of cable TV? You can do whatever you want on those networks. So I'm gonna need them to do a re-release of the finale with some deleted scenes, or at least just release the deleted scenes. I need to know what we're missing out on. They said Piper had her rom-com moment. I wanna see that. White Lotus doesn't have to always be serious. Obviously, there's some levity, there's some comedy to it. Let's see it. Mike White, release the footage, please. And I'm really curious where they're going to go for the next season. I think Mike White said that he's tired of the water hitting the rocks aesthetic and theme, which leads us to believe that it's going to be in a mountain European town away from the ocean. We're going to see if that's true. Someone on TikTok did research and they were like, there's 144 seasons. locations across the entire world. You take out the beach, you take out places they've already been, then there's like 30. But then you take out some of the other things that Mike White said, then there's like 4 locations. And one of those locations was a European mountain town, I think, on the border of like Italy and France. Um, I don't know what mountain range that is. My geography is a little rusty at this time, but I would like to see that. And speaking of mountains, next week I'll also be on location because I'm going to Denver, Colorado, my old stomping ground of Denver. And I am so ready and excited to get to Colorado, to breathe that mountain air, to go stay in that Airbnb. There's a hot tub that overlooks the mountains. And I just am so excited again creatively for what that episode is going to mean for this podcast. Like what being in that location is going to mean for the next week's episode. I know I'm rambling at this point, but I'm my eyes are closed and I am visualizing and I am manifesting a great time. I'm manifesting creative energy and oh my god, I'm too excited where my I'm going with my boyfriend to see his sister. She lives in Boulder, but we're going to be going to Buena Vista and a friend from North Carolina and his other sisters coming up, and it's just going to be a great time. So we're going to be bebopping around Denver, Buena Vista, and Boulder, Colorado, and there will be pictures and videos and stories to come. And like I said, part of next week's episode, I am saving to be recorded out there so we can do another on location podcast episode. I'm going to really try to lean into that. I don't know if we're going to do it from the hot tub or the back of the car. We're going to have to see, but it's going to be a great time, and I'm excited to share some stories with all of you. And another thing that I want to talk about, I feel like I was pretty open and honest in this episode starting out, but I want to continue to be open and honest with everyone because this is hard. It takes a lot of creativity and it takes a lot of time to plan out a podcast episode. And I'm a solo host, and it is so different the conversation when I'm just looking at the camera and talking into a microphone by myself than if I had a guest or if I had a co-host. And so I just for everyone who watches and listens, I just want to for the 7th episode express gratitude to all of you because this is hard and I know that the speaking style and the cadence from the people that know me and the people who are getting to know me, it's a bit different and it's a bit more difficult. Um, so I appreciate you sticking with me. I'm still learning. This is one of the most challenging things that I have ever done. I've really had to put myself outside of my comfort zone in doing this. And just the confidence, the creative energy that I'm tapping into, the challenge within and of itself of just creating this platform is it's rewarding to say the least. And I'm so appreciative of everyone who has been supportive and listening so far. So I just want you to know that you are a part of a really challenging, rewarding journey for me. And I hope the payoff for you, what you get each Sunday, is equally as rewarding. So just thank you. I just wanted to take a moment to say that. And with that being said, if you're watching, you see that I do have the headphones around my neck. And so that could only mean one thing. And I don't think I've done this enough for you to understand what that means. But what it means is I have some submissions on what people are not wrong about that I'm really excited to really dive into and share with all of you. So the first one that I am going to share with you comes from Steele, and Steele lives in North Carolina. So here we go. Let's see what Steele is not wrong about.
Hi, Chad baby. Here to talk about what I'm not wrong about. And I am not wrong about my views on dating culture and politics. As you know, I'm currently swiping on Hinge. And for those of you that are living a happy, peaceful life and you're not on the hellscape that is Hinge right now, um, I'll just kind of lay out the options are if you aren't familiar. So in your information on Hinge, you can include your political affiliation. So you can list conservative, moderate, liberal, and you can even put like apolitical or choose not to include it in your information at all. So what I'm not wrong about is that if a man is listing moderate or conservative on their dating profile, it is an immediate no for me. It is an immediate swipe left. I don't care how interesting your profile is. I don't care if you are the most perfect person, um, if you are hot, if you seem cool. I do not care. It's an immediate it's an immediate no. Because in this political climate, if you are putting moderate or conservative, you really might as well tell me that you hate me and you do not respect me. I'm not wrong about that at all. At all. The other thing that I'm not wrong about, and that I think almost is worse, is the type of guy that lists apolitical or chooses not to include it. Honestly, I think
Mm-hmm.
it's worse because we all know what that means. You really are not tricking us. We all know what that means. And if you're apolitical, again, in this political climate, you might as well tell me that you don't possess the critical thinking skills that are required to think beyond yourself and your own circumstance. And that's a red flag for building a life together. That's a red flag. I don't even want to spend one date with someone that can't do that. I'm just going to say no, keep it moving, keep it swiping. And I'm not wrong about that. 10 toes on the ground.
Wow, Steele. Wow. So yeah, you are not wrong. One thing I was just speaking to the challenge that is creating a podcast and being a solo host at that. But part of that challenge is sharing your views is horrifying. When other people have access to your voice and your words, and like I said, your actions and your words have implications, it's horrifying. But there's a really great payoff in knowing that you are so certain in your values and in your viewpoints that you are able to speak on them and speak about them and to them with conviction. And exactly what you just did, being able to stand 10 toes on the ground and say, this is what I believe in, and I will not falter on those beliefs and what my ideals are, is absolutely amazing. And that is a quality that should be commended and should be recognized and honored. And I would say if a man cannot respect you enough for your views or understand that being so certain about your values is something that he can't recognize and hold himself to that standard, keep it swiping. What is it? I have not been on those apps and I think like over 3 years now. Isn't swipe left rejection? Swipe left on him. No, if these guys are apolitical or saying they're conservative, swipe left. There's nothing worse than someone who change like I okay, I need to rephrase this because there are a lot of worse things, but it's really awful when people don't know what they believe in. It's one thing to question your beliefs and to seek an understanding and to seek education to strengthen those beliefs. I think that's great. But just to not know them, just to kind of like sit idly by and like let stuff happen and not really know your belief system or values because you're not doing anything to, like expand your mind. That's a red flag. That's a swipe left. Thank you, Steele, for submitting that. I appreciate it. I hope you find your Prince Charming on one of these apps. Um, Steele's going to Colorado with us, so maybe we'll find him in Buena Vista. And my next submission comes to us from Alec from New York City. His last name is actually Alec Dubois. We have not been able to confirm if we are related or cousins. We are very, very, very unsure about that. But regardless to say, this next submission comes to us from maybe cousin Alec. So let's see what Alec is not wrong about.
Okay. This one might ruffle a few feathers, especially in the South, but there is this little epidemic of people in their 20s graduating from college and then getting married and not going to the club. And then they're just getting married and having kids. That's fucking nasty, first and foremost. Second of all, you're going to get married and then you're going to invite me and I am going to fly to your wedding. I'm going to have to get a hotel room, all this stuff. Meanwhile, I'm working my first job. Like, I'm entry level, and I have to go fly to Birmingham to go watch you get married, and you're not going to provide an open bar? Beer, wine, seltzer only? That doesn't cut it. I want a vodka soda. So, I mean, I'm happy that all these people are getting married or whatever for them, not for me. But like, I mean, you're gonna ask me to spend like $1,000, like I have to rent a fucking car, and then you're not even gonna provide me with a vodka soda. I just think it's criminal.
Yeah. That is criminal. I I I I agree. You're not wrong about this. It the price of weddings, the the stress and pressure that is put on the attendees, the wedding party, the financial obligation that you have to, agree to in order to be a part of a wedding, even if it's just as an attendee, it's getting absurd. It's getting insane. Like there has to be. I like. I understand everything's like a pendulum, right? Like it goes one extreme, kind of comes to the center in the middle, and then it goes to another extreme, and then it balances out. I feel like we are at the tip of an extreme on these weddings right now. It has to start coming back down to an equilibrium, to a balance here soon because it is getting insane. The amount of money that you have to invest in just to attend a wedding, let alone being a part of a wedding party. You have to pay for part of the trip, pay for your plane ticket. A lot of these places you're going out of the country or to a place that is the cost of going out of the country. Week long Airbnbs, endless amounts of alcohol on top of 20 wedding showers where you're stocking the bar, you're stocking the pantry for the couple. It's getting insane. And then let alone in this economy having to fly to a wedding and then rent a car and a hotel room for 1 or 2 nights. It's very, very pricey. And then to only be rewarded with a truly, not even a high noon, a truly. I'm gonna have to agree with you. We should all be rewarded with maybe a little vodka or a little hard liquor. I see no issue with that. I'm gonna have to agree with you. And if you do find yourself, Alec, at a wedding here soon, I really do hope that for your sake, they have a little whiskey or a little vodka waiting on you. I don't understand what is in the water this weekend, but there seems to be a common theme with the submissions, and this was not planned. Genuinely, this was not planned, but there seems to be a common theme with all of my submissions, and I'll talk about that after we hear from Helen.
Mine is that there are more impressive single women than there are single men. Like, there are more impressive single women than there are impressive single men. Also, generally, I'm unimpressed with men. Additionally, people who go slowly in the left lane are typically selfish or narcissistic in other areas of their life.
So I told Helen when she sent these in, my response to her was the people in the left lane, I bet probably are also men. And she did confirm that when she sent that in, it was a man in the left lane who inspired that voice memo. So seems to be a theme right now that weddings number one suck and that men suck. And that was not planned, but if I do love anything, I love keeping things on brand. I love keeping things to a theme. And given that the theme this week is men suck, I can get behind that. Helen, you are not wrong. Single women are so much cooler than single men. I give that to you, but I'm really passionate more so because I am not single, so I can't really relate to that one. I've always been cool, single or taken. So I'm gonna excuse myself from that one, but I am passionate about all of the bad driving that's going on because I'm telling you, I talked about it earlier in this episode, but slow left lane drivers drive me insane, and I think that is a universal thing. That's not unique to me, but back in high school, I was involved in a youth and government program, and one of the bills that I passed, or I got passed, was about 60. If you're 65 years and older, you should be required to retake your driving test. And that is because at a very early age, even before I had the ability or the right to drive, I was so just irate about how many bad drivers there were in my local community, that I felt the need to use my civic duty at that age with the resources that I had to try to bring attention to the problem that that is bad driving. And so I really took it upon myself to target and attack people that were 65 years and older, because I think it was the easiest way to kind of, start making the change that I wanted to see in this world. And the older that I get, the more I believe that people should have to retake their driving test on, like every 5 years or 10 years. I know it seems like it would be annoying. It seems like it would be a hassle and a pain. Um, but I really do think that it would be worth it, and the less amount of people that we can have on the roads, the less traffic there are, the less accidents there will be, the more focused driving, the more focused drivers will be while driving from point A to point B. So I'm really passionate about that. Thank you so much to Steele and Alec and to Helen for sending in those voice memos. I really appreciate it. I love this episode. I appreciate all of you for listening this far. If you've made it this far into the podcast, I hope you enjoyed the scenery. I don't know if the camera is picking up on the color of the water behind me, but it is a beautiful day. It is sunny. It is blue skies. The wind is blowing, and I just could not be happier. I could not feel more inspired. I could not be more thankful, even if I tried. So I laugh every time I say so, with that being said, because of what I said earlier in this episode. But with that being said, that's the end of this episode. I appreciate all of you for listening and tuning in this week. There will be a new episode next week. We're going to have Cokehead from TikTok on. He's going to be talking about how to cut through the bullshit that is the news. And so go check him out before do some pre-episode reading and research before you come listen to next week's episode. His TikTok account name is Cokehead, not to be confused with Coca-Cola, but it's spelled Coke, Koch. So go check him out. He'll be my guest next week. Really excited about that episode. I would love to feature you on a future episode. I want to hear what you're not wrong about. So when you're thinking about what you're not wrong about, think about it in the sense of, what hill are you willing to die on, because you know that you are that right. So send me the voice memos. You can send them my email, chad@he'snotwrongpodcast.com, or that's email, or you can go to Instagram and you can send me a voice memo DM on Instagram @he'snotwrongpodcast as well. Find me on TikTok. I'm loving TikTok, you guys. It's like a game to me. How can I get my views over 500? And it is like what Sudoku does to people's brains, what crossword puzzles, what it does to people's brains, is what TikTok is doing to my brain right now. I'm having a blast with the He's Not Wrong podcast TikTok account. I'm also on YouTube. Some of you watch me on there. Go subscribe. All my links are in all the bios on all the platforms. And again, I appreciate you. I look forward greatly to seeing you next Sunday. And until then, bye.